Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our AI in Action series, where leading minds in AI from across the world share their story, success, and advice. AI in Action cuts through the hype and explores the true impact of artificial intelligence in our world today.
You're listening to AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Darren Spurgeon. Darren is the Chief Technology Officer at Torchlight AI. Darren, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, JP.
So Darren, let's start with yourself, please, as we do with all of our guests. If you could give us a little bit of an overview of your journey in technology, from where you got started, some of the interesting roles you've held along the way, and what's led you to where you are today as the CTO for Torchlight AI.
I actually started my career as a geological engineer. And after getting my master's in geology, I started working with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, doing coastal wave studies and some interesting things there. And I'd always been into technology, even selling some old DOS-based applications to local businesses back in high school. But while I worked for the DEP, I had a healthy amount of modeling and software engineering and made the pivot to software full-time a few years later. And since then, I've worked at both small, large companies, a variety of industries like insurance, brokerage, managed services, finance. I think it was that early background in science that allowed me to not be so apprehensive about seeking out different opportunities and also bringing a rather distinctive view of how to approach problems. So I came up through the ranks as software engineer, architect, manager, eventually leading some large initiatives in the finance sector, and finally here at Torchlight as their CTO.
Thank you for that. Appreciate you sharing the journey. And yeah, it's good to hear you point back to your initial interest in science and how that's been a constant, which helps you work in multiple industries. But as you mentioned, you now find yourself as the CTO of Torchlight AI. So let's set the stage. Tell us all about Torchlight AI, who you are, what you do, mission of the business.
So we help customers gain a deeper understanding of the world by translating vast amounts of commercial telemetry data, sometimes called ad tech data, into actionable insights. So we do this through identifying behaviors, which we define as meaningful patterns or trends in data that reflect the actions, habits, or associations of an entity. That could be a device, online activity, ultimately a person, if you will. And CTD is generated by remote sensors and devices embedded into various commercial systems and infrastructures. Your mobile phone is probably the commercial version that we're all familiar with, but it doesn't have to be a mobile phone. And so we get a real-time look at operation and performance of a wide range of assets through those devices and SDKs and apps running on those devices. And our customers are primarily in the public sector, specifically servicing Department of Defense and other agencies, but we're also finding traction in the commercial security space as well, with applications around asset protection, executive protection, risk management, and so on. So Torchlight is really expanding out from a niche market, if you will, in the public sector into a lot of applications that are really exciting at the moment.
Thank you for that. Well, let's start with what you're known for, which is your work within the public sector. And I know you might not be able to disclose the exact government bodies, agencies, but if you could give us maybe some examples of the type of engagement, the type of work, and most importantly, what problems are you being presented by your customers, and what is Torchlight able to do to give them actionable insights, and maybe share some of the more interesting projects that you're able to disclose depending on whatever NDAs and restrictions there may be. And then part two of that, it'd be great to talk about some of the growth into the commercial sector.
Some of our customers are interested in situational awareness would be one use case. One that's very common that kind of flies under the radar is just general training and understanding that as training happens with the Department of Defense and how they move resources around, they want to make sure that they have a minimal footprint. So what we do is we take vast amounts of data that we ingest every day. So terabytes of data every day, billions of records every day. And a lot of the tools that the government has in order to move through that data it just becomes noise, right? That's just such a vast amount of data that where do you start? And especially if you take the data we ingest and you marry that up with imaging data and all of the other aspects of that, we're able to provide a situational awareness kind of picture that cuts all that noise down. For example, if someone wanted to know what devices are exhibiting a certain behavior, and going back to that definition, a behavior might be an aspect of what a device connected to, the types of domains and IP addresses they connected to, or just areas around the world like geofences and geography that those devices have moved through. You want to make sure that you can see those through the data and through the noise. And so we provide a site picture around that. You can think of it like a search engine on geospatial data. So the applications there around asset protection, understanding whether you want to defend against those footprints being readily visible to others who might be using similar tools, or if you're using those in a different situation for going after high value targets, right? So we're not necessarily a targeting system, but we support other aspects of our customers that want to use us in a similar fashion. And then in a commercial space, that translates to risk management, asset protection, making sure that your facilities are protected, and supplementing other kind of cyber and risk management tools that you might have.
You're all obviously a CTO, you're overseeing a broad landscape of the various technologies that are at play here. But given Torchlight at its core is an AI business, can you help us visualize the aspects of AI that are at play and day to day, how it overlaps and has multiple use case applications, both in the public sector and then also in the enterprise commercial sector, and some of the conversations that you're having with your customers around usability, use cases, and also trust? Because I know in your world, especially in the public sector, there needs to be a real high degree of trust in the technology for accuracy. You have these conversations with business leaders all the time. So from a Torchlight perspective, how are you guys utilizing the best components of AI?
So, when we think about AI, there's got to be a solid foundation in data science practice as well. And a lot of people like to think of these days, at least, AI being LLMs or Gen AI, but there's a whole history of how we got here, and data science kind of underpins that. And so part of our core practice is helping people cut through the noise, as I mentioned, and we help customers look at threats across an increasingly interconnected and cross-domain picture. And so data science and AI can help us recognize patterns, for one, that our customers may not be paying attention to. And a lot of times our customers have a mixture of experienced and inexperienced analysts, especially across departments, and if you look at the entire segment. And so we need to be able to speak to those folks who want to dig further into the data and get very specific on how they look at data, or folks that really are just looking for an answer. And we use data science practices, specifically MLOps and some other things, to help us provide the best, simplest picture we can to cut through that data. And we're also starting to pivot into exploring some of the exciting aspects of AI that people might be familiar with. For example, providing chatbots or LLMs to help search through a lot of different components of that data, where there might be a lot of different elements and attributes to that data. It's hard to figure out where to start your search. And so those kind of tools that AI is now providing allow us to point it at the data and have it interpret what someone's looking for and can provide answers back and make that user experience just a little bit better for those who are not well versed in looking at data.
You are listening to the Alldus podcast. When you're looking to scale your team, or if you are interested in showcasing your company in a future episode, reach out today. Or if you're in the market for a new role, visit our website to view open positions, www.alldus.com.
Switching focus slightly, I want to spend some time talking about the team that you've assembled and that you lead at Torchlight. Obviously, broad diversity in skill set and industry-specific focus, but could you give us a look behind the scenes of the org that you're leading, from the size, the makeups, the various positions, and what's it like day to day if someone listening here was part of the AI team, a typical project life cycle? How are they interacting with each other?
our company is still rather small, like overall about 50 people or so. And we're still very much in that startup mode. We've experienced some higher growth in the last few years. And as many startups find, there are like way more opportunities out there than we can keep up with. And our team on the technology side is not quite half the company, but a fair portion of that 50. And we cover data, product, and product or software engineering. And the data team is composed of both data science roles as well as analysts who have come from the industry and come from the very customers that we service. And so that team is focused on not only analyzing data and creating use cases, scenarios, analyses around how our customers might want to solution for themselves and use our product, but also doing model development, doing data analysis, and all the data science things one might expect. And so the day-to-day for us is really a small team composed of engineers and product and data science folks all kind of collaborating together to deliver that one platform, one product for our customers, and then support as they need things from the product that we don't yet provide, and help us develop into the product and lean forward from data science into analytics to production, let's say, deliver those for the future.
You mentioned there that Torchlight is still a relatively small team, but having tremendous success in this space, both in your public sector company portfolio and then also the emerging opportunities in the private and commercial sector. When you look at the road ahead, particularly the next 18 months to 2 years, it's really hard to call what could happen beyond then in the world of AI. But looking at the near-term opportunities that exist within your current customer base and the new customers coming in, what are you excited about? What are you looking forward to working on with your team, and particularly on the AI component? What are the advancements that you see that you're going to be able to help your customers benefit from?
We recently finished rebuilding our platform over the last year, really putting everything into managed cloud services. And that was really exciting and very hard, but it was necessary to get us to a point where now we can really scale up and really provide our customers more responsiveness, resiliency, and all of the things that they would expect as we grow from a small company to a mid-sized company, and provide even greater solutions and touch a lot more of that market. And so now we're getting to work on a number of new capabilities that we've had in the backlog for a while, and specifically on projects in the data science AI space around model development, maturing our ML ops and data quality management, and what I would term AI ops, which is really helping us do a similar thing with AI that folks have been doing with data science, and getting analytics production in a very efficient way. And a lot of those specific projects aren't necessarily public in nature due to our customer base, but it's really exciting to start working on analytics that go beyond just looking at data and searching on data, but really to helping people interpret the why is it important, and using AI tools to facilitate both application and product development, user interface and usability, but also just the mechanics of how data science is changing from analytics into really delivering answers through some of those AI tools.
Darren, I wish everyone listening could sign an NDA so you could share more about the interesting work that you're doing within the public sector space, but unfortunately that's not an option. We'll have to leave some of it to imagination, and then for others listening who are intrigued, they may learn more should they find themselves working with you in the future. On that point, speaking to an audience of AI and digital transformation and technology professionals, you have a unique perspective because you've worked in numerous industries, and you're now at a bit of a merging of public sector, really cool applications within the government space, and then also enterprise applications. When you're speaking to candidates, AI and data candidates, about Torchlight, what is it that you tell them about the work, the mission, the environment that gets them excited enough to join Torchlight over some of the other great companies also trying to hire?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And it's one that I think I would answer similarly at many of the companies I've been at. The mission is interesting enough, right? So the domain we service, the mission we service, I've been very privileged to work with folks who come from a military or DoD background, and it's a privilege to work with folks focused on service during their lifetime. And when you draw people in and you talk about joining our company, really the focus is always on culture first and the technology kind of second. It seems strange for a technologist to say that, but changing culture, especially in large teams, or those that have been together for any length of time, is a monumental feat, and it's near impossible. And defining the culture you want and setting out to find the people that match that is ultimately what you have to do to really make sure that your organization endures as you scale up. And don't get me wrong, technical proficiency is there. It's a necessary part of delivering quality product. It's just that the technology changes all the time. And as a good technologist, sure, you want to provide a great environment, and we do have a really exciting platform to entice people. But the other thing I'd say is, having a team that is capable and can deliver consistently as a cohesive team is always preferred. And we focus on that, both as an organization and technology, as well as the larger company. And so we want to build that team steadily, adding to it rationally, making sure that when candidates come in, they fit that culture, they enjoy working with their team, and all the supporting roles make sense. So if you're a general data scientist, or if you're an AI specialist, you have a place and it makes sense. And the culture is there to help you enjoy the time there. And so that, to me, is how we get people to join our organization and really live with us and work with us for the long haul.
Darren, thank you so much for coming on today and talking to us. It was great to learn about your own background, an incredible insight into the work that you're doing with Torchlight, the importance of not just the technology side of things, but the mission and the culture and the growth opportunity ahead for you guys. So we wish you, the team, and everyone at Torchlight the very best of luck in the months and years ahead, and look forward to having you back on the show again in the near future.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.